Welcome back to the American Muscle Car Museum here in Melbourne, Florida. Today out of the collection we have a pair of 1984 Pontiac Fiero Indianapolis 500 pace cars. Around 2,000 of these pace cars were built. The 68th running of the Indianapolis 500 was ran on May 27, 1984 and was won by Rick Mears for his second occasion. Side note, second place was Roberto Guerrero, who was my childhood neighbor growing up. So good job, Roberto, if you're seeing this. This would be the fourth time that Pontiac would pace the Indianapolis 500, previously doing so in 1958 with the Pontiac Bonneville, in 80 and 89 with the Pontiac Trans Am Turbos as well. All four of these examples we have in the museum collection. This was the first year for the Pontiac Fiero, and it was honestly a really revolutionary model for GM. If you look at what else they were building at the time, there was nothing else really like it. It had a plastic body, getting away from metal. It was dent resistant, scratch resistant, overall a very resilient material. The only available engine was a 2.5 liter, 4-cylinder engine making 92 horsepower. While great for fuel economy, people got as much as 50 on the highway, it wasn't really great for the Indianapolis 500 pace duties. Cars used at the track had a beefed up or Super Duty version of the same engine that was bored out to 2.7 liters. One of the main differences between these two cars, outside of their mileage, is that this car is a track-inspired air intake that they used to help feed cold air into the engine. On this is cosmetic and not functional, but on the actual track cars it would be. It would be the first 4-cylinder car since Stoddard Dayton had a pace car in 1914, 70 years prior. It would also be the only mid-engine car to pace the race. Now that might change with the new Corvette, as GM is the exclusive provider of the pace cars, but for now that still is true. Starting point for the Fiero was just under $8 grand. However, these pace cars were a little bit more. Both of these were in the $14,000 range. 2,000 Fiero replicas were created and sold to the public, and only around 250 of those actually had a 4-speed manual transmission. Both of our cars have the 4-speed. The other option was the 3-speed automatic, which most of the cars came with. On the inside of the Fiero, things are pretty simple and basic, but it's really well laid out. Pre-airbag, so we have a nice 3-spoke steering wheel. Gauges are very simple and easy to read. We have the 85-mile-an-hour speedometer, which would be typical for the time. Radio is simple and easy to use, AM/FM cassette, push power to hit it. Something really unique is the headrests. They have the speakers in them, but it really works well. They're right by your ears, so I don't see why not. While this one has above 500 miles, which would still be considered low with most people, this example here has less than 80 miles even today. Ed took the lead on purchasing this car here locally, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about it.
Robert Trimble, who was a Korean War vet, had purchased 2 of these cars from Rick Starr Pontiac in June 27th of 1984. Shortly after purchase, he installed both Indy scoops, and the one he had given his wife for a daily driver, she drove over 100,000 miles until they eventually donated the car to a veterans group in Massachusetts. This car has never been titled until the family inherited it shortly after Robert's passing in 2018. The family had contacted the museum and wanted to know what would be the best way to display this car for future generations. So we feel very honored to have this car added to the collection.
If you've been by the museum, you know we have an affinity for Indianapolis 500 pace cars, as well as low mileage examples. We have over 50 pace cars in the collection, and also more than 100 cars with less than 100 miles. So whenever we can add a sub 100 mile car, we try and take advantage of it, as is the case here. This beautiful example we'll pass on and sell with only 535 original miles, keeping this under 100, actually 80 mile example in the museum collection. So if you're looking for a really great example of a 1984 Fiero with a more desirable manual transmission, we have it here. So feel free to contact the museum. Info is on our website at americanmusclecarmuseum.com. And as always, thanks for watching.